Have you ever noticed that the calmest person at the dinner table is almost never the one flashing the most cash? They don't talk about their job title, they don't glance at the menu prices, they just exist, quietly. Like money isn't even a question for them. That calm isn't an accident, and it has almost nothing to do with how big their paycheck is. Real wealth leaves clues. 10 of them, actually. And once you learn to spot them, you'll never mistake a shiny surface for the real thing again. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. We assume a big salary and real wealth are the same thing. They're not even close. A salary is money passing through your hands. Wealth is what's left standing after it passes through. You can earn an enormous income and still end up with nothing to show for it. And tons of people do exactly that. A recent survey found that over 40% of households pulling in $300,000 to $500,000 a year still say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Even households earning well over $150,000 fall into that same trap at surprisingly high rates. Meanwhile, somewhere close by, a public school teacher is quietly sitting on a seven-figure net worth, earning a fraction of that salary. Most self-made millionaires didn't inherit their money. In the longest study ever done on this group, nearly 80% never received an inheritance at all. The average person didn't hit their first million until around age 49. They built it slowly, on regular incomes, using habits that are almost boring to describe. The paycheck lies. Behavior tells the truth. So let's break down the 10 signs that reveal who actually has money, regardless of their job title, their car, or their zip code. Sign 1, their money keeps working even when they don't. Someone with a high income trades hours for dollars, but the moment they stop working, the income stops too. Someone with real wealth has built the opposite system, money that earns more money around the clock, whether they're working, sleeping, or off the grid on vacation. Picture $100,000 sitting untouched in the market, growing at 8% a year. In 20 years, it multiplies past $460,000 without a single extra dollar added. Take Daniel, a warehouse supervisor who never earned six figures. For 20 years, every raise and tax refund went straight into index funds instead of upgrades. By his 50s, his investment income quietly overtook his paycheck. His coworkers assumed he was underpaid. In reality, he was financially free while still clocking in. Sign 2, an unexpected bill is annoying, not terrifying. The car dies. The dog needs emergency surgery. The pipes burst before the holidays. For most people, this is instant panic. Roughly a third of Americans couldn't cover a sudden $400 expense without borrowing money. So when a $3,000 bill hits, it's a crisis that drags on for months. Someone with real wealth barely blinks. They keep 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, earning around 4%, while a typical big bank account pays a fraction of a percent. On $10,000, that's the difference between $38 a year and roughly $400. A nurse I'll call Renata keeps 6 months of expenses tucked away. When her car needed a $2,000 repair last winter, she said it didn't even register as stress. Sign 3, the car in the driveway is deliberately unimpressive. We're trained to read an expensive car as proof of wealth. Often, it's the opposite. The average new car payment recently hit a record high, and nearly 1 in 5 new car loans now runs over $1,000 a month, mostly for ordinary trucks and SUVs. Put that $770 payment into the market instead for 30 years at 8%, and it grows past $1.1 million. That car payment isn't really about the car. It's a $1 million decision handed to a machine that loses value the second it leaves the lot. A majority of households earning over $250,000 a year drive ordinary paid-off cars, not luxury brands. In a study of over 10,000 self-made millionaires, Most credited avoiding car payments as a key reason they built wealth in the first place. Sign 4, the credit card balance hits zero every single time. In that same millionaire study, nearly 3/4 said they've never carried a credit card balance in their lives. Compare that to the rest of the country, where huge numbers carry balances at rates well above 20%, even people earning $300,000 or more. Carrying a balance means paying extra to spend money you don't have yet, the exact opposite of building wealth. Wealthy people use cards constantly for rewards and convenience, but the balance disappears the moment the statement arrives. A $5,000 balance at 22% interest can cost over $1,000 a year. Sign 5, they're perfectly comfortable saying no. It's the friend who skips the destination bachelorette party, the coworker who brings lunch from home without a hint of embarrassment. In that same research, 94% of self-made millionaires said they live on significantly less than they earn. That gap isn't luck. It's the result of saying no over and over, long after they could afford to say yes. Sign 6, they buy back time instead of stuff. Ask someone with real wealth what money is for, and they rarely mention a bigger house or nicer car. They mention time, the freedom to leave a job they hate, to take a random day off, to sit at their kid's game without worrying about the cost of missing work. Priya spent 15 years building her company. The moment her investments could cover her family's basic expenses, she didn't buy a boat. She cut back her work week and started coaching her son's soccer team. You can't photograph freedom, but you can see it in how unhurried certain people are with their days. If any of this is resonating, go ahead and hit subscribe now, because the next 4 signs matter the most. Sign 7, their money has a job before it even reaches their bank account. Most people save whatever's left at the end of the month, and there's almost never anything left. Wealthy people flip that order. Before they see a dollar, a portion is already gone into retirement accounts, investments, savings, all automated. Your savings rate matters far more than your salary. A modest earner who saves 20% of a $60,000 salary and invests it at 7% ends up with over $1.1 million after 30 years. A high earner making $150,000 who only saves a small fraction ends up with less than half that. The person earning less wins. That change was behavior. Sign 8, they own things that pay them and avoid things that only cost them. An asset puts money in your pocket over time. A liability takes money out. Wealthy people spend on assets, index funds, rental property, dividend-paying stocks. Everyone else spends on liabilities. The boat, the upgraded car, the things that lose value the moment they're bought. Marcus, a plumber, spent 2 decades quietly buying small rental properties instead of upgrading his lifestyle. Today, his rental income outpaces what he ever earned holding a wrench. Sign 9, their investing strategy is aggressively boring. There's a myth that wealthy people picked the perfect stock or timed the market. The real data says the opposite. In that same study, roughly 3/4 credited slow, consistent investing over time, not a single hot stock pick. They bought broad, low-cost index funds every month and did the hardest thing in finance: nothing. They stayed invested through crashes and headlines insisting everything had changed. Investing $500 a month at 8% for 30 years grows to roughly $745,000, and you only actually contributed $180,000 of that. Everything else is time doing the work. Sign 10. They know their net worth by heart, but they'll never mention their salary. Ask most people how they're doing financially, and they'll tell you their income. Ask someone with real wealth, and they think in a different measurement: everything they own minus everything they owe. Income is water pouring into a bathtub. Net worth is what's still in the tub. The nearest $1,000 without pausing. But she'd find it strange to tell you her old salary. The salary was never the point. It was just the raw material she used to build something that lasts. So think back to that calm person at the table. Their peace isn't a personality trait. It's the slow, compounding result of money that works without them. A cushion that turns emergencies into non-events. A boring car. A zero balance. An easy no. Time bought back. Savings on autopilot. Assets instead of liabilities. Patience when everyone else panics. And a relentless focus on what they keep, not what they earn. None of it is loud. None of it is built to impress anyone. And that's exactly why it works. Real wealth was never the number on your paycheck. It's the gap between what comes in and what stays, and the freedom that gap quietly buys you. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 signs hit closest to home? Drop a comment and tell me about someone in your life who looked wealthy but was secretly drowning, or someone who looked completely ordinary and turned out to be quietly loaded. And if this changed the way you think about money, make sure you're subscribed.